and welcome back to Sticks and Strings. I'm Naomi.
I'm Beth.
I'm Eve.
It's February. Happy February. Wow, already I feel like, what happened? January flew by. It's bothering me. I have to reach up. This is crooked. It looks crooked. Sorry, guys. There you go. That makes me feel better. Sorry.
Every week we're like,
every week I'm like, is it in the center? See, now it's off center.
Because I can't set it in the center of the table because that's not the center of where the video will be. So
it's a very complicated process. Every week we're like,
that's when I do my update. If there's like a piece of lint or something on my tablet, I'm like.
But we are back. We have stuff to talk about, and
very little to talk about.
Lots of nonsense. Oh,
happy Groundhog Day!
Oh yeah,
yesterday.
Groundhog Day was yesterday, so it's.
But I didn't.
Early spring, is that what I heard?
So what?
Something like that.
I don't know.
Or
the groundhog said
groundhog.
no more winter. Is that what he said?
Something like
I don't
that.
know.
That's what I heard. But of course, we had spring for a day.
We had
like, a couple of days. I thought, oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm
over.
like, wow, this is nice. Okay, it's cold again.
It got up to like 79, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
no, 81, I think.
Oh my gosh. And it was kind of warm. And I was like, oh, that sucks. Winter's over already. And then yesterday, Thursday and Friday were cold. Yesterday was really cold.
It was 81 2 days.
Yeah, yesterday there was gale force wind downtown. It was so cold. So I guess
it rained most of the day.
Yeah, and it rained. And
we didn't get rain for most of last year.
I'm wearing a long sleeve flannel shirt and a sweater, and I'm like comfortable. Yeah, so winter's back for a day or so. I mean, who knows? But Eve, you said you were going first?
Yes.
Okay.
Speaking of weather.
Speaking of weather, the turtles of consternation. That's what I'm calling this pattern now.
Yeah, they really are. This is Stitch and Mommy's temperature turtles, which I have to say I love the design, but I am not loving working on.
It's giving you consternation.
So
the change of colors is good.
Yeah, those. Okay, I'll talk about that. So remember last week I was very unhappy with the colors of the turtle, and I looked more through the thing because it gave other temperature
range
charts. And when I looked at the one with the extreme, I looked at it and said, oh, that'll work, because I look at the highs that it goes to, because here it gets so hot, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the one I was working with. Turns out I should have been using the hot, because I have actually used this 28 down here.
Oh, show the camera.
This 28 down here. I've actually used that.
So then you have the whole range.
Because it starts with it starts with 50 degrees. So, and goes up. Now, it ends with 110 and above. I will probably need to put another color on top.
Yeah.
Because
you don't want July to just be solid color.
most of June, all of July, half of August would be probably over 110.
Yeah.
So maybe two more colors.
I was going to say, you might need two more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that being said, here is my turtle with the new colors.
Lean it back just a little. There you go. Nice.
Okay.
Well, we'll have a photo. Yeah.
So I started February.
Oh.
Now, because it's a leap year, and this chart, the turtles that are popping up on my tablet, in Pattern Keeper, already have the adjustment, taking the tail off and putting this for leap year. So what she's doing is the first day of the month and then like the 15th or something, whatever day it is that it goes around, take up this portion of the tail, so as to add
one day
a day.
I see.
Yeah. I didn't stitch the legs on the turtle because honestly, I completely forgot that I needed to start a new turtle. Because I finished all of this turtle the last day of January. Because I wanted to start doing the long stitches for the that separate all the colors for the days. And I looked in the pattern and I said, what color is that supposed to be? It doesn't say anywhere. If it does, I couldn't find it. And Pattern Keeper, at least for me, I don't know what it does for other people, but Pattern Keeper does not have the backstitching show up on the pattern where you're marking your stitches, which can be very annoying when it's something like when Witches Go Riding, where half of the thing is backstitching.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You have to pull up the PDF and do it from there, which you can. It just doesn't keep track of where you are. So I said, well, maybe they're supposed to be the color of the fins. So I used the color of the fin. And you will see in the picture that it really doesn't show up. You just kind of go, well, where's that separation of days? And
You just have to use a lighter color or something.
well, I figure
You can't use any of the temperature colors.
No.
Because that'll mess up
I
too.
figure in the summer months it'll show up fine, maybe even the spring months.
me
It'll
see
show
that
up fine
close.
because those are lighter colors. But it is so close in color to some of those colors in there that I don't want to use. I just stitched one thread of it. Well, technically it's two because I did it with two threads, but it doesn't show up at all.
And you know what? Even though I think once you do them all, it'll be subtle, but you'll be able to see it. I
yeah.
think it'll be okay.
And by next month it'll be fine because
Yeah.
the colors won't be as dark.
Yeah, I think it'll be fine.
It's not like I need to go back and say, what was that January 2nd color? So, I don't know. These are the problems because the last temperature chart I did, the colors didn't touch each other.
Right.
And actually the other ones that I've seen, the colors don't touch each other, like the temperature tree and all that. But I really like sea turtles, so I'm looking forward to this. I wish it was a little more sparkly, but I'm not going to sparkle it because I have enough to do. But
I say
Anyway.
you could sparkle it up.
Bedazzled turtles.
So I forgot to work on this on Friday, so I just this morning stitched in the last 2 days of February. Those
You mean the first 2 days? Of
first 2
February.
days of February. Yeah, I got the turtle finished in January. So that's that. I spent almost all of last weekend and a lot of Monday taking the other colors out. So
So you're behind.
So then I had to stitch everything again in the in the proper colors, and I decided that I would go with the colors she had, rather than the brighter colors that that the other one had, because I liked the fact that it was going down to the blues and purples. I spent quite a bit of time doing that, and then I cut out bags out of the
Valentine.
the Valentine bags. I intended to have them done by today and get them up on the Etsy shop. These are just, I've done more on the big bags, but these are smaller and easier to show.
Those are cute.
Yeah, it for every stitch, 2 stitches I did, I had to take out 1.5, and part of it was that I was so cold.
Is your sewing machine messing up?
No, like on here, I didn't have to take the stitches out, but I had when I'm sewing. You don't need to know this, but when I'm sewing like the back half of this bag, I have to sew the inside and the outside at the same time to the zipper. Did I? No, I did not. I ended up being able to just go back and stitch it back on top. And yes, I did that again when I was working on the big bag. You know, I'm carefully pinning the thing in, and I sewed it, and I'm like, wait a minute, I don't have the inside stuck on here.
No.
So that tells me that my concentration wasn't where I should be working on that. So I decided to go work on my other projects. Now, because I was redoing the temperature turtle, I did not get back to my WIP-GO stuff as I wanted to, except for this one. This is Cross Stitching for Fun's Black Cat, which I call Art Deco Cat. And I was stitching along. There's still a long thread on here because I was stitching along. I was making some small amount of progress. I don't know if you could tell the difference from last week. So I got around this little curve down here, and I was stitching up, and as I mentioned, the temperature turtles I have on Pattern Keeper on my tablet, and I have this on Pattern Keeper on my tablet. So I'm stitching along, and the tablet went.
Power died, or
It just died because I didn't look at the battery level, and so
that's
I
when
couldn't
I'm like,
just.
I guess that means it's time to go to bed.
So I couldn't just plug it in and turn it back on because it will not turn on until it has a certain amount of
Juice.
juice. And this is, I don't want to say off-brand, but it is a different brand of tablet that really honestly just takes its time starting. So I said, well, I guess I'm done with this for this month. Because at a certain point, you just have to laugh and put it down, you know. I tried to work on it some more. I was like, oh, I'm getting a lot of progress on this. Yay.
It's so cute, though.
But, you know, when my tablet winked off, I thought, okay, I'm done.
It's a sign from above.
Well, it was already January 31st. I'm like, I got to get something done on one of these.
Oh, that's from January? Oh.
That was one of my January WIP-GO projects. And then I started my cross-stitch camp February winter cross-stitch camp piece, anything with an animal. And I chose Christmas berry.
Christmas?
I'm doing this big one because this little one is done on a very small. No, I can't do that where the holes are so small. Well, I probably could if I wore like jeweler's lenses.
Yeah.
But I just can't. I like the little one better, just like on the snowman.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like I guess I'm gonna have to live without it.
You can just make a bigger one. Mm-hmm.
I started doing that. I would have to do like 1 thread over 2 in order to get it. I mean, 1 thread over 1 in order to get it where it wouldn't be so enormous. Anyway, that being said, this is my progress so far. And that's 2 days. I didn't work on it today. Today's the 3rd. So that's 2 days, and I'm starting to get an antler over here. And I thought I had gathered. Now, I don't know why in this picture the antler is so light colored. I'm using the called for DMC threads. At least I think I am. That's the small berry. Hold on. Anyway, my moose, and see how the birds are lighter too? I don't know.
It could be just,
the photograph.
Or it could be the difference between the overdyed and the DMC.
Usually they try to have it be kind of sort of the same.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I don't care. It'll be a moose. and so.
And actually, I like that the darker birds and actually the darker.
Yeah,
animals.
I have no problem with it. I'm just like, I just noticed now.
Sometimes when Hannah is like in a group that like at school, some kind of performing group at school that isn't going well or whatever, and I'm like, well, how's it going? She's like, it'll go. In other words, we're gonna play and it's gonna perform. It might not be great, but it'll go. And so at work now, so my boss and I sometimes are like, it'll go.
Sometimes that's all
she likes that phrase, my boss.
Honestly, sometimes that's all you can do.
Right? Well,
it's just, not try to, get all turned inside out about it. Okay, and right now I'm working on one of my WIP-GO pulls well, technically it wasn't, but I changed it. Oops. The pattern on the back is this way. Winterful Friends by Silver Creek Samplers.
I just really like a lot of their designs. They're really, really nice.
They're so cute.
She did I think it was sometime last year, she did a trunk show on Fat Quarter Shop with a lot of her patterns, and I was like, yeah, I want that one.
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah.
And I like that one. Because even though the title is samplers, it really, very little of them are samplers. So, well, I shouldn't say very little, but a lot of them are not.
Lindy Stitches has has been doing Nashville, a Nashville wish list, and there's a couple of them on there. I'm going, ooh. I'm trying not to.
You have enough patterns. If I have enough patterns, you definitely have enough patterns. I am trying.
Depends on your definition of enough.
Yeah, Beth, you have enough.
I'm trying my best to not buy patterns. Of course, I bought the temperature chart pattern, but I'm trying not to buy other patterns, even though I see lots of things that I really like. Anyway, that's me.
Okay, I'm going to go next, and I just kind of messed up my knitting here. I have been working on one thing only. Let me show you a picture. Oh, I don't have a good picture. Oh, I have it here. I brought the book this time so I could show a good picture. I've been still working on, as I call it, Hannah's graduation cardigan, which is actually Genevieve's graduation cardigan by, there's the picture. Isn't that gorgeous? By Kathleen Taylor is the name of the designer. and I cast it on some time ago. I'm about right here, just to start these flowers. And it's difficult because it's in a circle on my needles, and I don't want to pop them off the needles, which I just did a second ago. But here's my progress. The swirlies! The swirlies are accomplished. So that there's another photo here where you can see up close this border edge. Yeah. There's a good picture. So I'm right here in this area. I'm just starting the bottom of these flowers here. So, and I've been literally doing nothing else, knitting wise. I've just been working on this. Sorry. And it's going well. No real issues, no problems. The yarn, when I do, like I said, I pulled the needle out, and then because this wool is so sticky, it, traditional wool, it, the stitches that I pull the needle out, they just stay there. Like, I'm right here, I'm fine. So I'm like, oh, it's much easier. They don't slip around, so it's nice. Oh, here's the back, if you want to see the back.
Show me your backside.
Yeah, there's my back. There's the back of the work. Ugh, it's just the floats. I'll take a photo of it close up. So that's going well. I feel encouraged. I have no idea if I'll have it finished by her graduation time or not, but it doesn't matter. Okay, the other thing though, that because you know me, I'm always like, what other things can I add to my life to add stress? What other things can I put on my plate? Because besides some socks that of course I want to crank out and finishing Rachel's quilt, I don't really have a lot on the horizon knitting wise. I've thought about it. I'm like, oh, I want to go to the yarn shop, but I go, I don't know what I would be buying yarn for. I do have the Musselburgh hat that I'm working on, which is kind of just a filler knitting, and that's just for fun. So anyway, there's a thing. I bought this book 100 years ago, literally. No, it wasn't literally 100 years ago, but it's a pattern book. I'm going to show it to you here on my iPad. It's called Knit Swirl. And I don't know if I've talked about this when we very first started this channel a long time ago. This is a designer. Her name is Sandra McIver. She designed a set of these sweaters. Whoops. She designed a set of these sweaters that are knit in a giant circle. Sorry, Beth. In a giant circle from the outside in a swirl pattern. Because when you knit in the round, you literally are knitting in a spiral. So you knit in the round and you come in, and then basically the whole sweater is one piece, and it's quite complicated. But you knit in like this, and then you bind off half of it, and then on the other side you knit the sleeves and the neckline. Then I'll show you some photos, but of how it works, and then you sew one seam all the way up here across, and then across the back of the neck, and then here, and then down the other sleeve. So just one seam to create that. And the shape of the sweater, which is basically either a circle or an oval, it's more of a, not really a circle, it's more of like a, maybe it's an octagon. it's got like it has edges like that, you know. But anyway, because of the shape of it, it automatically creates a collar, and then the way the drape of the back of the sweater falls, her thing was like, it's flattering on any shape. And when I very first bought this, I'm trying to remember how long ago, I could look in my email how long ago it was that I first bought this. I heard about it, I was at the yarn shop. Okay, so that was, when I worked at the yarn shop was 2019. I worked briefly at Tempe Yarn. And a woman walked in with one of these on the hanger, and she was looking for a shawl pin to, because it doesn't have any buttons or anything. So you close it and you can use a shawl pin. So she was looking for a shawl pin to go with it. She had made it for a friend. And I looked at that sweater and I was like, what is that? And then she told me about Knit Swirl. And so then I started obsessively, the way I am, looking it up. And, and I guess if you want to categorize me as a knitter, what kind of knitter I am, I'm not a project. Is it product knitter versus process knitter? I'm very much a process knitter, and I just I see something new, circular sock machine. I see something new, Fair Isle, whatever, and I just want to try it.
I think that's also why we have so many patterns.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I just love learning new techniques and trying my hand at stuff. Which means I have a lot of unfinished things because I'm like, okay, I tried that. But I have been obsessed with this sweater type for ages. And so I was thinking about it. Now, I have two instances of Ravelry. I have the before the controversy on Ravelry, and I have the after controversy on Ravelry. And if you are a knitter, I'm not going to go into it here. There's plenty of videos and posts about it. But prior to the controversy on Ravelry, I had my projects listed in there. I was active on the boards a little bit, just dipping my toe in. When the controversy happened, you can judge me if you'd like, I didn't feel comfortable being in that space. So I pulled all my stuff off. I still, and I guess subsequently I lost a lot of photos since then, so maybe there's knits that I no longer have photos of. But anyway, so in my head, that's what I decided to do. And then after that, I was like, okay, maybe I'm hypocritical. You can also judge me on that if you'd like. But I was like, I do like the resource of Ravelry, and I like that it keeps all your patterns in a library there. I also now keep all my patterns on my iPad, but so I decided to go back into Ravelry and use it the way that I wanted to use it, and just not become involved in any of the social aspects of it. So, if that makes me hypocritical, I apologize. But anyway,
that makes you somebody who's not interested in dealing with anybody else's.
I just don't want the drama, but I do like the tool, and so so anyway, that's all. That being said, the reason I'm saying all that is that I had purchased the book through Ravelry in the prior days. And so when I re-signed up, I think, so it's my same email, but my library doesn't have everything that I purchased prior. I have it in my email because I would buy the pattern and they'd send it to me, right? Mm-hmm. So I knew that this Knit Swirl book was lost in that limbo somewhere. So I looked up in my ancient, emails, since I never delete my emails, and I have 50,000 million emails. I looked back and I found it, and I re-uploaded it, and re-downloaded it and put it in my iPad. Oh, that's a long story. So anyway, the problem with this, okay, I'll show you here. I just want to explain it a little bit. You can do, let's see, here's the page where it talks about it. You can do 4 different kinds of sweaters. You can do a centered, see if you can see that. A centered circle, see the hole for your head, right? A off-centered circle, a centered oval, and an off-centered oval. And how you choose, depending on what kind of sweater you choose, determines the shape of the sweater itself, obviously, but how it drapes on your body. So you'll see here the centered circle, if you can see that picture, has a large shawl collar, and the off-centered circle has a more narrow collar and is longer in the back. And then the ovals, the centered ovals also have a large shawl collar. It's centered side to side, and up and down. And then the off-center oval has this, the yellow one has a smaller collar and a longer back. So the one I fell in love with is a centered circle, because I think the ovals I think they would make me look even shorter than I am.
Do you remember, I think you were in high school, maybe college, I don't know. I made you a swimsuit cover-up that was kind of like that, and it just was connected at the sleeves, and it was a big...
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
And you looked really nice in it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think you would look nice in something like
that. So this is called Forest Fiesta. This is the reason this is so attractive and beautiful is the yarn. I mean, the design is also cool, but it's a Noro yarn which has very long color changes, and the colors would not work on this sweater like this unless you had a yarn with long color changes. I'm having trouble finding that yarn. But what I really like about it, here's another really cool picture, is that the shawl collar is big enough to be kind of a hood, which is, I think, really cool. And there's another picture of the hoodie kind of look to it here. So that's the way it drapes on the back. And I think it's really cool. And because of the increases in the back, it flares out. And that's why she says it's really flattering on any shape. You can see the color changes there. Look at that. Mm-hmm. So I fell in love with this pattern, but the centered circles are also, they're really kind of all the same. Let me see if I can find a good... There's this one, which the attraction of this one, it's called, this one's called Depths of, what is it called? What's it called? Depth of Field is the name of this one. The attraction of this one is that it's made with chunky yarn. And then, so this is, the other thing about these jackets, these sweaters, you'll notice is that they are made with welts. And what that is is you knit a few rows in knit stitch and then a few rows in purl stitch, and it creates a wave like this. And that's what is creating those grooves in the sweater. so this is like a chunky yarn, I think, and a thin mohair kind of yarn. So you can see right here how you can kind of see through it. So the thick lines are the yarn and the chunky yarn, and then the thin lines are the mohair. So so that's kind of attractive. See how you see through right there?
Yeah.
The attraction is that with a chunky yarn, maybe it'll go faster. Because the problem, if you want to call it a problem, is that they are huge. And everyone I see online is like, I've been working on this for 3 years. So, and this one is just worsted weight yarn, simple. This is the very simple centered circle. It's got a nice big collar. It's worsted weight yarn. So if I didn't find like that color changing yarn or whatever, I could certainly make it out of this. The colorful one, the rainbowy one, is made with a DK weight, which is much lighter in fabric. See this one? Mm-hmm. Here's a shot of it from the back or side, which I really like. It kind of shows the silhouette of the jacket. And I think Arizona is actually, even though like it's so hot, because this doesn't button up, it's not a big turtleneck. It's literally 4 days like yesterday that are chilly and you just want to wrap yourself up.
The problem with that is that here you tend to lose a lot of outerwear
In the back of your car.
Yeah.
Because you wear it in the morning and then not in the afternoon. But anyway, so and in this picture you can really see the welts. So the alternating stripes is just literally knit stitches, purl stitches, knit stitches, purl stitches. The daunting thing, and you're like, well, why not just shut up and make the thing? Is what's your problem?
I was gonna say
Is 21 balls of yarn for the smallest size. And so for this in the worsted weight, cast on 545 stitches. This is 200 and something. So it's 500 stitches and you knit 5 rows and then you purl 5 rows. Purling 500 stitches. Anyway, so it's very complicated and it's just huge. But of course, here I am going, yeah, I want to get on that train. Now here's my other thought. Long ago, you may remember that if you've been with us for all these years, that I purchased an entire fleece of it was processed fleece, but the entire fleece of a sheep named Naomi. And she's it's Jacob wool, and it's like it's kind of this color, kind of a dark brownish, grayish, maybe a little tiny bit of like lighter white in there. And I have the whole fleece in my box, ready to be spun up into yarn. And I thought to myself, I'm going to use all of that Jacob wool and I'm going to spin it. And I remember back then when I bought it, I'm going to make one of those knit swirl sweaters. So here I am thinking, oh, maybe I could find that Noro yarn and make the rainbow one. And I'm like, no, you know what I ought to do is spin up everything I have in the Jacob wool and maybe also spin up, I have Cotswold, I've got other things, and maybe make maybe color it by welts, the dark and the light. Mm-hmm. I don't know. My fear is that I won't have consistent spinning and I won't have enough yarn. Mm-hmm. But so I can't I'd have to spin every last bit of that and figure out how much yardage I have and then start the sweater. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because I don't want to. Anyway, so all that's saying is I want to make that sweater, but then it piles all this other stuff on my head, like, because I really do. I have intended to use that Jacob wool as a sweater for a long time. So maybe this is the incentive. I just have to find a way to consistently spin so that I have consistent yarn, so that I can do something like that. There's a lot of hand spun yarn patterns, sweater patterns I've seen out there where it's okay if it's inconsistent, and it's the charm of it or whatever. But for something like this, I would really want it to be really consistent. Now, the last few skeins of yarn that I've spun, I've been able to get a really nice consistent weight. And so I think I have a lot of stuff kind of on my spinning wheels right now. And I'm like, what I should do is finish those and use those as practice times to really work on getting back into the rhythm. And then just slip that Jacob in right under the door. Figure out the weight it comes out, and then figure out which pattern it would work for. And if I don't have enough to do the whole thing, I could do one of the ones which is wool and a mohair, welts together like that. So that's a thought. Anyway, that's my new long-term thoughts. And of course, I have not done any progress on my Master Hand Knitters program, because that's the way I am. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it, I promise. So anyway, that's me. A lot of nothing. One project, a lot of talking. Sorry.
Okay. Lot of wishing.
A lot of wishing.
Get this
A lot of wishing.
thing in here. There's all the time, because I know a lot of people do like two-handed stitching or whatever.
What does that mean?
They're knitting they're stitching on a stand, and they have one hand underneath and one hand on top, and so you push the needle through here and you push it up with your other hand, and you put it so you're not switching your hand around. But I don't do that. I stitch in a hoop and I back and forth, just stab and stick and blah blah blah. So so a lot of times I end up I hook my fingers, hook the thread, and I pull the thread out of the needle or whatever. So, okay, so last week I worked on the owls. This owl trio from Dimensions. This is Jennifer Nilsson is the designer for Dimensions. This little owl trio, and really I basically have finished the owls. And all that's left is some more leaves and branches. There's some across the top. And then I think there's a branch over here connecting this leaf. And there's also a black single stitch in each of these leaves. Where did I put it? Here. There's one here on this leaf. And I, need to do that in these. There's back stitching, all that. And so there's, like I said, there's a branch and 3 leaves across the top, and then a frame, a border in black and white all the way around this thing. So it's not nearly done, but it's nearly done. So there's back stitching and some it calls for French knots, which I'm going to do as colonial knots, of course. And but it's coming along. The owls are finished.
Oh wow, cute.
Yeah. So I've been working on that almost every day last week. And then so for February, I'm doing winter cross stitch camp. And then I have all my WIP-GO pulls. So one of my WIP-GO, my secondary, I haven't started any of my primary WIP-GO things yet. But one of my WIP-GO things was a secondary design, which was one of the rabbits, and I decided to work on it on the first because you're supposed to say rabbit on the first of the month for good luck.
That's a rabbit.
Yeah. This is the February rabbit. So the one I decided to work on is December. When I started, I think I had like one of the leaves in the corner, and then like one rabbit and like maybe half of the other one. So I finished the rabbits, including their little, there's a slightly lighter shade on their ears. And I discovered as I was doing this that they're in the wrong place by like one stitch. They're off, and so I was like, I didn't discover it till I was like on the last rabbit, and so I'm like, I ain't pulling that out, and
So move everything else.
well, the thing is it's this leaf here that I started with, that when I went to do the rabbits, I started like just one square off. And so I was looking at it, and I think the design, I think I can just fudge it, just put the design where it's supposed to be in relation to the rabbits, and let this leaf be off, because I think it might make something touch that's not supposed to touch, but too bad, because that's how it's going to be. But anyway, so this is done
Excuse me, ma'am. We noticed that we're the cross stitch police, and we noticed that your leaf's in the wrong place. Actually, we know your rabbits are in the wrong place, and you fudged it.
So
Here's a citation.
These are done in Gloriana silks. When I did the January rabbit a few years ago, it was the first time I used silks. And I decided to just buy all the silks that are called for these designs. There's like, I don't know, like a dozen. So they're stitched with one thread over two, and this is 32 count Murano Crochet that Hobby Lobby used to carry. They don't anymore. They carry like one color. But so yeah, so I did all the rabbits. And then I just it calls for, there's like, two shades of this green. There's a lighter shade and the darker green. And then the berries. And I think there's maybe one other color on there. I don't know. It says 7 colors. But I finished the two brown colors. And that is the darker brown of the rabbits. And there's a lighter, like slightly lighter brown of the inside of their ears, and so all that's left is the other colors. I don't even know where maybe the each of these berries has a light colored little shiny part on them, and I think that's the other color, and then their tails are like a light pinkish color. But anyway, so that's I've worked on that, I think, just one day. Spent some time working on that. And then one of the other things I did, I just did it yesterday. I got all this basically in one day. So my nephew Rob, Eve's son, is graduating next week.
This week.
Thursday. This coming.
In a few days.
Yeah.
8th.
So I had designed this for him, and I kind of had to punt a little bit because what it says is, and I don't have a photograph of it, I just have the pattern that I'm working on, but it says, "May integrity and uprightness preserve me, for I wait for you," from Psalm 25:21. So this is how far I've gotten. I haven't finished the word uprightness. I have the 2 S's to go on there. And then there's most of the rest of it is backstitched. But so it's hard to see from a distance here. But it's one thread. I'm using actually the silks from the Rabbit set. I had to punt because originally the fabric that I was going to stitch it on was black, and it was this. This is from Hobby Lobby. It's like an embroidery thread or whatever. Fabric. and so, but it's very tiny. The stitch count is very tiny. It's like, I don't know if it's 46 or it's higher than that, something like that, So it's very, very tiny. And this is stitched one thread over two. And
why couldn't you use the black?
I couldn't use the black because I couldn't see it at all.
Oh.
I couldn't see, where the threads were in the fabric. It was just too dark and too dense. And so I had like two other colors of green. I had this lighter green and a dark green. And I don't know why I was hung up on using this lighter color. Because if I had used the darker color, I could have used a different color. I could have used the darker green fabric. But I like this one. And I could see it. So, so I used this lighter green on these stitched letters. But for the back stitching, I was going to just do it all in one color. But I figured that the back stitching, as I was stitching this, I realized that the back stitching would be almost impossible to see if I did it in the same color. So I did this a little bit darker. And I have a little tweak to do to the design to just, as I was stitching it, I was like, So I'm going to tweak the design a little bit, but hopefully I'd be able to finish it like in a couple of days. So that's that. And then
I better finish it in a couple of days.
Yeah, and I have to decide. I kind of have some FFO ideas, but that remains to be seen. And then the other thing was, like I said, I'm doing Winter Cross Stitch Camp. And let me make sure I have the picture here. Yeah. This is a tiny modernist design. And I had originally had it as one of my like secondary WIP-GO things. This is Mouse's Christmas decorating. Because I have the other two as my WIP-GO pulls at some point. They're in a WIP-GO square. The Mouse's Beach Outing and Mouse's Lucky Day. And these are by Tiny Modernist. But I had this Christmas decorating that I think I bought it at the Jingle Ball. Because and I thought, it goes with those other two. That's great. I'll just add that. But I really wanted to do it. And when I was thinking about what to do for Winter Cross Stitch Camp, stitch anything with an animal in it, I chose this one, the mouse. So, I think I worked on it just one day. Yeah, because I waited, I was up late anyway, working on the owls, and on the 31st. So, I think I had dozed off or something, and I woke up and it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I thought, it's February 1st. So I stitched a little bit, and then I've been working on this now while we were talking. So this is just a little vine. I started in the left-hand corner. That's what this thread is marking my place. But so I'm just working down here. This is the vine along the side, kind of like a border. So I'm almost to the bottom. Right now I'm working on the bottom of this here. So I'll go across here, and yeah, that's all of the green of the border, and there's like a little package here, and yeah, that'll be all the green when I do that, finish that package. So I'm hoping that I should be able to finish it by the end of the month. So there it is. So I think that's me.
All right, that's you.
Mm-hmm.
Simple days, not the frenzy of before Christmas that we were a few while ago.
Oh, it'll get frenzied.
I was saying.
As the month goes on.
Oh gosh. Well,
so we mentioned the weather, that it was raining. So since it was raining, everything's growing. And so I have been miserable. I take a lot of allergy medicine and stuff, and still I'm like, ugh.
I'm waiting for it to hit. It hasn't hit me yet.
What's worse is when they start all the mowing.
Yeah.
You'd think there wouldn't be that much grass here in Phoenix.
No, there's plenty.
There's plenty.
There's plenty.
There's plenty.
I read something about like, somebody had, they were, it's kind of a trend now, people trying to be, I guess, environmentally, I don't know, responsible, I guess, whatever, that they choose instead of growing a lawn, because lawns typically use a lot of water, like blah, blah, blah. So the trend is to grow like a pollinator garden or a natural garden. So you basically have like wildflowers, wild grasses, whatever, and they have a kind of a, it looks like a, like something you would encounter in nature, not like a manicured lawn. And so they're very controversial because some people really like them, some people really don't like them. But like they're a lot of times they're called pollinator gardens because they have flowers and things that bees and butterflies and birds are attracted to, or whatever.
So if somebody wants to put a pollinator garden in their yard, why would their neighbors care?
Yeah. So because everything has to look
It's
It's
yeah,
not your
like
business.
some HOAs object to it, and
Why?
Because it doesn't look like the Stepford Hills. And but I was reading an article where this person had had a pollinator garden in their yard, and they were I guess it was a woman. When she was taking a shower, she heard a lawnmower. She didn't think anything of it.
No.
And when she went to work, her neighbor had mowed down her yard for her.
No.
Apparently, so I
Did you know that person can be taken to court?
yeah. Well, the article didn't go into what she did about it, but I was thinking, first of all, isn't that trespassing? And
Yes.
second of all, why would you
It's
do your neighbor a favor?
Damaging your neighbor's property, trespassing, and the amount of money she put into this garden.
But so it's
Dang.
people are people have posted. I've read things where that sort of thing. They have to go to war with their HOA or with the city, because they're saying, like it's like they argue that it's like neglected, like if you let weeds grow in your yard or whatever. But they've had to prove that it's that they did it on purpose, that it, and that they're approved by the city or that whatever. But so it's an issue, I guess.
Wow.
Our HOA says that we're supposed to ask if we want to put any plants in front at all that are not there right now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are they paying the mortgage?
That's what my dad used to say, because my dad, HOAs are relatively new, and compared to
When he bought his
house and growing up and all that, and so he's like, isn't this my house?
You would think.
Yeah.
Well,
that's why I love my neighborhood. No HOAs.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want.
I like some of the stuff that HOAs do for you, like the maintenance of the trees behind our
in the
house.
common areas. Yeah.
But
Granted, the purple house down the street is kind of ugly, but let them, I'm happy to let them live in their ugly house.
And I like the
Doesn't bother
fact
me
that,
much.
I hate it when I get a letter, but I like the fact that they want people to maintain their properties.
Right.
Because it does do something about your property value if other people are letting their house go.
Or parking
Falling apart.
derelict cars in their yard or whatever.
Yeah. Our HOA has something about cars not being allowed to park on our street overnight. Now, that's our little HOA, not like the greater thing. And that's because in order to get the amount of houses in this area, they had to make the streets
Very narrow.
barely passable with 2 cars going like this.
Yeah.
And so if somebody's parked on the street, sometimes you can't get through.
That's the other thing I like about my neighborhood is our streets are wide.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
I can breathe.
Yeah.
And we were house hunting when we bought this house. We were house hunting, and there was one neighborhood actually not far from here. I think it's like a little bit south from here, but I was in there and I felt like I had to drive like this.
Well, and
Yeah.
like if we come in that back gate, a lot of the back gate is
I know, I
temporarily
saw
closed.
temporary
So annoying.
broken.
I'm glad they're trying to fix it. We pay an HOA fee, and are they fixing the gate? They haven't. A lot of times that house on the corner on the street behind us, they have people parking right on the corner.
Yeah, it's
And
very
it's like-
very illegal
It's like, you're not allowed to do that.
because they're parked like there's a stop sign on the corner and they're parked right there, and like between the driveway and the corner, and there really isn't
So
room
it
for
makes
a car
it
there.
it makes it very hard to try to turn that corner because you can't see the road because there's a car there. Not that it's a busy road. There's 2 streets in our HOA. Well, 3 if you count the one going this way.
Our thing is
So
almost like a pie sign.
Yeah.
2 streets like this, and 1 street connected, and then a little,
Anyway, I like living in a gated community, but the things they should tell people about, like I understand about the no parking on the street, although the guy across the street, there's a truck parked there all the time overnight. I'm not going to tell the HOA because, who's paying the mortgage? Am I? No. So, but the guy parking on the corner
yeah.
is a problem. And I don't think it's the guy who lives in the house. I think it's his guests that park there. And I remember when I lived in a different part of Phoenix, I lived in a corner house. And there was no HOA. Or was there? Yeah, there was an HOA, but there was an HOA, but they just did the pool and mowed the lawns over other places. They didn't really harass us. They didn't harass us like they do here. And there was a family across the street. I remember they had a lot of boys, but apparently they also had a lot of get-togethers. I wouldn't call them parties because they weren't like noisy and tons of people, but there were
Maybe
many.
they were craft nights.
Huh?
Maybe they were crafty nights.
Maybe.
Or
But there were
Come here.
many days when I came outside and there was somebody parked in front of, I had a fire hydrant in my yard, parked in front of the fire hydrant,
Whoops.
sometimes blocking my driveway, and I didn't want to get cited for a car blocking
Right.
because they would think it was my guest because it was
Right.
in front of my house.
Right.
And also many times it was difficult for me to pull out of the driveway because of this.
Yeah.
So a couple of times I just went and knocked on the door and said, "Hey man, you can't park there. There's
Yeah.
a fire hydrant." Because their house was a corner lot too, and they could have parked along the other side.
Right.
I don't know why they didn't.
Right.
So the last time I said, "Look, I've called the city about this." I said, and they told me that if I see a car there again, to call this number and it will be towed. Mm-hmm. And I won't warn you because I've warned you now.
Yep.
Don't park there. Because if there were a fire in my house, I would not want that thing blocked. Now,
Or a fire in your house, you wouldn't want it blocked either.
Now, fire department, if there's a car parked in front of the hydrant, do you know what they do? They break the windows out and put the hose through to the thing. Mm-hmm. They do.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I saw a picture like that.
So don't do it.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. It's gonna if there is an emergency, your car will be totaled.
Yeah.
Well, not total, but a lot of damage. And you will get a major ticket. They have those rules for a reason. And everybody goes, it's just there just because. Well, Beth knows that fire alarms work. I know from experience that fire alarms work. And because fires and emergencies like that are unpredictable. And that fire hydrant has to stay open. And why do your visitors park in front of somebody else's house? Especially if there's nobody parked in front of their house.
Yeah.
Our next door neighbor has people that visit them that park in front of our house all the time. Now, am I going to go and knock on their door and say, dude, no. But it's annoying when Naomi comes because she's my guest and tries to park in front of my house, and she can't. And
you're like, there's no space between houses.
No,
Like at least at my house, like between mine and my neighbors, there's room for like four cars.
3 cars. Yeah,
Like and between the driveway and my driveway.
Yeah,
you could fit. You
but
could really stack
if you don't
in there.
park in front of that section of my house, you have to park behind the driveway. You cannot park anywhere else.
Yeah.
You can walk. You can park way down in the little cul-de-sac thingy.
I know.
And walk.
This road is so tiny.
Yeah, which is like I was saying, you can't park there, and it's just HOAs, and then they start, because they have the little committees and stuff. They start making rules that infringe on your property, and a lot of times when homeowners fight them, they win. Speaking of which, I used to drive Uber, and I had a woman that I picked up in Scottsdale, and I don't know how it came up, but she said that she's a lawyer, and so was her husband. And they came out, and there were javelinas in their yard.
Javelinas are wild pigs that live in this
And they
area.
can be dangerous
Yeah.
to your pets and to yourself.
They still live in Phoenix.
And
like they're around.
and I don't want anything to happen to the javelinas. I just don't want them in my yard. I don't want. I walked out of church once and there were 3 javelinas there, and I went, okay, I'm going out a different way. And I walked back in and I went, javelinas that way. But there were javelinas in their yard, and she said she had heard from a couple of neighbors that there had been javelinas around their yard too. And so she contacted the HOA and said, we need to do something about these javelinas. They're going to injure somebody or something. They're coming into our yards in this neighborhood. And the HOA said to her, that's a homeowner issue. And she said, but it's affecting the whole neighborhood. Well, yeah, but it's not our problem. And she's like, yes, it is. And she said that she had to take them to court about this because, it's not like a gigantic expense, but it is an expense. And she's like, what am I paying my dues for if they don't take care of something that's a danger to people that's in the neighborhood?
Right.
Now, it's not like when we see a bobcat or a coyote. Unless they're rabid, they're going to run away from you.
Right.
That's why when I see coyotes chasing after adults, I'm like, there's something wrong with that coyote. They're either absolutely starving or there's something wrong with them because they run away.
Yeah, they're scared. They're scaredy cats.
They're run away. And bobcats attacking people, I'm like, I can see them attacking your animals, but to attack a human, that's an animal that's much bigger than they are.
Yeah.
And they'd rather just run away. So when I see, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen, because it does, but I can't help but think that there's something wrong with that animal, like rabies.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of javelinas, apparently don't leave your pumpkins out.
Oh yeah,
Your-
they love
your
javelinas.
jack-o'-lanterns.
The javelinas love them. And I have to say that javelinas, while they are gigantic, and as I said, dangerous, they're also kind of cute.
They're so ugly that they're cute.
And I saw a dead one on the side of the road.
Aw.
I guess it had been hit by a car, and all I could see was its back end and its little hooves. And I thought, it's so perfectly formed.
No.
It's so beautiful.
Little piggy.
Poor
Little
little,
wild piggies.
poor little javelina.
Yeah.
And so it's not that I don't like them.
Yeah.
And
But they scare me.
they're
kinda
scary. I don't want to come
'Cause
up on
apparently
one.
they can get really aggressive.
I mean, they're just trying to protect themselves and whatever.
Yeah, I read, I was reading some story about how there's some, I guess, some local golf course that they were, messing up the grass because they were, rooting around for whatever bugs or I don't know, whatever they eat. And so they were, kind of tearing up the
The
turf.
Mm-hmm.
green.
Yeah. And it reminded me of in Little Rock before I left, one of the issues was with golf courses and parks and things like that. There is Canada geese because of the climate in Little Rock. It's pretty much they're there pretty much all year round. You see a little bit of them, flying south supposedly, in the wintertime, but it's not like a mass migration out of there. There's almost always Canada geese around, and so it's very hospitable for them when there's parks and the river and the green of golf courses, and so they nest there, and so there's goose poop everywhere.
Well, they
And
don't know
so-
that it's
Yeah,
not.
it's very inviting. Animals are they're looking for the easy way out. So like that's why if you put food in your bird feeders, you're going to get a lot of birds. If you put food out for your animals, you're going to get not only your animals but raccoons and all whatever's in your area. And so by the same token, if here's grass and here's water, and the birds go, hey, let's live there. And so in Little Rock though, there was one golf course where there were a lot of geese there, and they were trying to come up with solutions for it. And one of the solutions that somebody suggested was, well, let's have people hunt them. And I'm like, okay, that's in a residential area, and here you're going to have people with rifles shooting, no. And so they decided, no, yeah, that's not going to work. And so then they
Had to think about it for a minute.
and so for a while they had there was a dog. There was I guess a local trainer, and the dog would sort of basically chase the geese away. So the dog would,
That's the best job ever. That little dog.
and so
I
they were
chase geese all day. Woo!
so that kind of reduced a little bit, but then the city, I guess, didn't have the money to continue the program because they had to pay the trainer and all that to bring the dog out, and so they discontinued that program. And so the last thing I heard was that they were doing they were putting oil, I guess, on the eggs, basically suffocating the babies.
Aww.
so that they wouldn't hatch. And it was very
that's
mean.
Sad.
But I'm like, it's
That
not
doesn't
the
get
goose's
rid of
fault.
that doesn't get rid of the adult geese
No,
that are living.
But
But,
it
I
makes
mean,
them, I guess they're like, this isn't a good place to
Yeah.
raise my babies. kind
And
of
and I always thought that too about the deer in the area because they're in Little Rock. Just you're not too far from there's a mountain right there. There's a wilderness out there, and one time, one of my friends, she said one time she got up like I don't know, it was early morning, I think, and her I don't know if she let her cat out or something like that. She her animals, but she was up in the wee hours of the morning, and she said she was I don't know if she was getting coffee or whatever, and she saw out the window.
Come here,
She said, I thought at first they were like ghosts in the woods. She just saw like little white things in the woods like this, and she looked a little harder, and it was the white tails, undertails of a deer.
Yeah.
Of the deer, there was like a herd of deer moving through the woods, and all she could see was their tails at first.
Well, that kind of happened about the trying to get rid of what they consider a problem animal. For many, many, many years, people would go to the duck pond at UNM to look at the ducks. It wasn't literally called the duck pond, but everybody just called it the duck pond. A lot of ducks, and they were there, if not all year round, most of the year. And then UNM decided that those ducks couldn't live there. And it's like, well, then I have no reason to come and look at the ducks, and my ex's father, my father-in-law, he raised ducks and geese and one turkey, and I knew not to walk barefoot through that lush grass because I knew there would be bird poop there.
Yeah.
But he had the greenest grass that I've ever seen in Albuquerque, and it was mostly fertilized by these ducks.
Yeah.
And probably
ducks
a couple of the geese.
And they get rid of snails, they get rid of pests.
Yeah, and I realized that, they get in your yard and they poop.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the other animals, like, don't. Mm-hmm. So it's like, what are you really mad about?
Talking about controlling wild animals like that, I was driving on the freeway and I saw a billboard, and it was advertising hawks. Like you could rent a hawk, I think, to like come and like, I think because they're trained hawks, I guess, and they come and they scare the pigeons away, I guess is what it is. A lot of houses have fake owls.
Yeah, in Little Rock, I was talking about the deer. One day I was driving home from work, and there were basically two routes I could go to get home from work, and one of them I liked because it was very shady and very it was mostly residential or whatever. Went by the country club or whatever in this one neighborhood, but so it was a parkway that I would drive on. And so it was 2 lanes this way and 2 lanes that way, and in between there was a little like a island or whatever running that had a bunch of trees, and on the sides there was a lot of trees and grass and stuff, and then there were fancy houses off to the side. But so I was going along there, and one day in this very dense stand of trees, a little herd of deer came running like they were going to cross the road, and I was like, because there were like maybe 6 of them. They weren't a whole bunch, but they ran up to the edge of this berm, and then they turned around and ran the other way. But it was great. But I was like so scared that they would run out into the traffic because it was rush hour evening traffic. But but they were really really pretty to see. But I thought we're building houses in their neighborhood basically and that's why they're there. But well, you were talking about renting hawks in Little Rock, in downtown Little Rock. Of course, they had a pigeon problem, and so they actually introduced some. I guess there were falcons, some kind of hawks. They put like nest boxes in the upper floors of these larger buildings, and so the birds would hunt the pigeons basically and help reduce that pigeon population. So there was some neighborhood. I mean,
that's more natural, I guess.
Yeah, some building where I think they were taking they were able to take photographs of these little baby hawks or baby falcons or whatever that were growing up there. Yeah. So.
Yeah, but if those hawks are natural to that area, that's one thing. But you should not introduce animals to an area where they are not naturally there. as Florida knows very well.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, because you want to get rid of some problem that you perceive, and so you introduce an animal that maybe isn't native to that area, and a lot of times it causes lots of other problems.
Yeah, that's happened a lot of times.
And you know, that's just like there was programs that people would get tax incentives to plant trees, but it didn't say plant them in a certain area. It didn't say, you know, and so people would plant trees that weren't native to wherever they were planting it, and a lot of times were destroying the ecosystem where they were planting these trees, because they wanted the tax incentive, and then it destroyed that area where they were doing this. And you know, this world has so many different things. It's got swamps, it's got bogs, it's got, you know, desert, it's got glaciers and all that. And when you try to introduce something that doesn't belong in that area, A, it may not work anyway, and B, you will cause issues that you are not anticipating. That's why all of that cutting down of the Amazon, you know, is killing off so many animals, because that Amazon is supposed to be there. You know, and I'm not somebody who says that you cannot cut forests down to build homes. It's not me. But you have to acknowledge what you're doing. You know, like building the houses out here on the mesa, you're going to get scorpions, you're going to get bobcats, you're going to get coyotes, you're going to get... Huh? Rattlesnakes, you're going to get javelina.
You guys ever seen a snake out here?
No.
No. I saw... I've seen a picture on my newsfeed, I guess, of somebody found a snake in their garage, I think in Scottsdale. But it was like there was a bicycle, and the snake had like entwined himself or in the spokes of the bike, you know.
But this is kind of sort of snake time.
I was gonna say y'all are in snake territory.
Yeah, they tell you to be careful when you're going outside, not to disturb snakes.
I dreamed that reminds me that I dreamed that I don't know what room I was in, but there was like a big scorpion in the corner. It was like a gray and yellow scorpion, but it was huge, like 3 or 4 inches, long. I don't know.
One of those vinegaroons.
I don't know. I don't know why I dreamed about it either. It's kind of scary. But I was gonna say, was it this summer? We were speculating if maybe it may be this scorpion had come in, because I think Rob had gone camping at some point, and so we speculated that maybe this scorpion had tagged along when he came back from camping. But our bathroom is right across the hall from the garage entrance, and one night I got up to go to the bathroom, and there was a little bitty scorpion in there on the baseboard of the bathroom, right across from the toilet. But as I went into the bathroom, I had noticed that Rob was still up or something. It was kind of late at night. So I ran out, and I'm like, Rob, there's the scorpion in the bathroom. so fortunately he came and smashed it. But yeah,
unfortunately, Robert has had plenty of experience smashing scorpions.
Yeah.
One of the houses that we lived in.
I'm sorry. I think bug killing is a Y chromosome responsibility.
Yeah,
it's a man's job.
I do too.
Like, oh, you're an XY. You come kill this bug. I mean, I can do it in a pinch. But I prefer someone else.
Yeah, I used to have to do
bigger
that.
And stronger to come kill something that's way smaller than me.
I used to have to do that, when I lived alone in my apartment. It was up to me to go there and kill the critters. But
oh my gosh. What was I gonna tell you guys?
Oh,
Huh?
I was gonna say.
Oh yeah. So last week we celebrated Rachel's birthday. We surprised her.
Yeah.
We told her let's have a craft night, and we surprised her with an actual birthday party.
Mm-hmm.
And Eve had Eve created a painting class for us, and it was supposed to just be girls, but my husband's like, "Could I paint?" So but it was fun.
His was very cute.
Here's some pictures of all of us at the table. I have photos where Eve's instructing us, and we're all painting.
I meant to take pictures of all of them together at the end of the night, and I forgot.
And I don't have mine because I took mine to the office. But here's a picture of mine and Mark's, and then you can kind of see everyone else's at the table in these photos.
This is mine.
And there's Beth's.
I was actually very, very nervous about, like, you know, I'm not much of a painter. I can draw in a pinch if given enough time or whatever. But
It came out so cute.
But yeah, I liked it. I like it.
Well, just like she kept saying, well, we'll see about that.
Yeah, he broke it down into really simple steps.
Yeah,
and so it was very cute.
By the way, if any of your children have access to a young Rembrandt's class that's from kindergarten to 6th grade, I believe, they are very, very good. I taught young Rembrandts for a while, and I was like, this is a brilliant way to teach drawing. Breaking down things into simple shapes. I drew a sketch of that. I didn't ever show you guys my sketch. I drew a sketch of that, which was more complicated. And then I looked at it in order to break it down into simple shapes and be able to show people how to do it. And not everybody's going to make the same thing, and that's wonderful.
Yeah.
But yeah,
everybody had their own twist on it, and it was a lot
Mark
of fun.
gives his a mohawk.
Yeah, Mark gave his a little tuft of feathers right here. But it was fun. Actually, it was very therapeutic because it's not something at least we do every day. And I was thinking, Eve, you should be doing that. You should be doing that.
Doing what?
Teaching like that.
That's what I was doing.
I know, but you should be still doing. It was really good. It was a really good class.
It was fun. I had so much fun.
Yeah, and then we stayed and we did more. And Eve gave Robert's girlfriend a cross stitch lesson because she wanted to learn cross stitch, and we had a lot of fun. It was I think it was a good birthday. She loved her. Rachel loved her quilts that we gave her unfinished quilts.
You gave her and took back.
I gave it and took it back, but.
She'd seen the owl
Like,
pattern, and
you've seen it online. That's what you're getting. But no, it was a lot of fun. It was a fun weekend night, and then so that was fun. So last night we have tickets to the Friday nights in Mesa subscription concerts of the Phoenix Symphony. But yesterday, while I was at work, well, first of all, I'll back up. My colleague was wanting, her husband, who doesn't usually like classical music, really wanted to go to this concert because it was a guitar concerto, and he plays guitar, and he wanted to hear it. But because this particular concert was at Mesa Arts Center, we as staff don't get comps over there. We get comps when we're in Symphony Hall. But they couldn't go either Saturday tonight or Sunday afternoon. So she was really wanting to go, but couldn't, she's like, I could buy tickets, but, how we staff think. Like, we want everyone else to buy tickets.
So people would always ask me how much the symphony tickets are. I'm like, I don't know, I'm never buying tickets.
Anyway, so she was kind of asking if she could get comps or buy for, as staff, we can buy tickets at half off, but we can't at Mesa because it's a different thing. And so she had been asking about that all day. And then Mark messaged me because we bought the whole package, right? But he was like, "What's on this concert? No, I don't know if I'm that interested." Da da da. And then I had also agreed to work tonight at the concert doing some pre-performance stuff. So he messaged me and said, "Would you like to go to the movies?" And I was like, "Yes." Because I can hear. I do want to hear the concert, but I can hear it tonight when I'm working. And so I was like, okay. So then I was like, "Hey, Sarah, you want my tickets?" So they were very happy. She sent me a picture because we sit all the way. So Mesa Arts Center has the floor, and then it has a mezzanine and a balcony. So it's very high, and our tickets are. It goes so it's like a U, goes like this, and our tickets are right up at the front, basically right over the stage. So
Of the balcony?
Huh?
Of the balcony?
Of the balcony. So when you lean forward and look over the edge, the first violins are right there. And the soloist, is just right below you, basically. And and I thought he's going to love that. And because it's a very rare experience to be up there. But so I gave them our tickets, and she sent me a picture from there. She said it was really great. So anyway, so we went to see Argyle. And it was a lot of fun. It was Mark's idea, and I was like, "Oh, that's great! I've been wanting to." It looked interesting, and it was a lot of fun. It's very it's one of those kind of like the Kingsmen, surreal, comic book almost action stuff. And
Mark wanted to go to a movie.
Yes. Well, no. So for Christmas, he said, "I think we should give each other." He decided that we should give each other Harkins gift cards and go on date nights on a regular basis. So I'm like, I'm all for that. That's my favorite place. Like, finally, you realize after all these years of marriage, that's what I want to do is go to the movies. So so we went, and it was so we've been wanting to go to movies regularly, and he saw that was coming out. I guess he was interested in it. And Sam Rockwell's in that movie. Oh. He's so great. He's so great. I love him. So we had a nice time. We had a really nice time. And I played hooky from the symphony. But
I was going to say that one of the pieces that they're doing is the guitar concerto.
Yeah.
Is I always like to say it, that Concierto de Aranjuez. I was going to say it's like History of a Soldier is a Stravinsky piece that the name of it sounds a lot better in French. L'Histoire de Soldat. Sounds like Soldat.
But it's like the most famous guitar concerto. Ever. Did you get do you get the podium preview emails?
No. I get emails that I get are like, "No, before you go."
No, but you should, as a subscriber, you should be getting.
It might be in
your email. You just didn't notice, but
it might be in my spam folder, I guess. But or a promotions folder, whatever.
Our conductor does a podium preview every week, for classics concerts, and he gives program notes basically, but also his insights to it. It's really great. I was listening to it. It's nice and hefty this season. This concert.
What I found when I lived in Little Rock, I had my radio on the classical station, and I really liked. I think it was on Sunday mornings for a while, and then they changed it to some other time. But on Sunday mornings, they had. Classical Guitar Live, it was called. And so, in the morning, they would have play classical guitar music. And so I would always listen to it on the way to church or whatever. But then I think on Sunday afternoons, they switched it to Sunday afternoons or something like that. But they also had interview talk shows or whatever. No talking on the radio. No talking. I don't want to hear anybody talking. Blah 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 blah. No talking. But what I realized is that I really like classical guitar.
Oh, you're gonna like it. It's really good. So I'm looking forward to hearing it tonight. But one of the ads that we saw. Now I don't know if I've mentioned this before. I'm a huge Dev Patel fan. He's coming out with a movie called Monkey Man. It's coming out in April, I think. and basically he's one of the directors, I think, or something. Basically, he's kicking butt, taking names, and I'm like, I'm all for that. Sign me up. Looks really great.
I saw.
You should watch the preview for it. Monkey Man, Dev Patel.
I saw a movie.
Looks really good.
Last night.
An ad.
That
you mean?
a movie. I think it might have been like, I don't know if it was a made-for-TV movie, or whatever. It was like CBS, films or something like that. And I don't remember it being in the theater, but it was if it was in the theater, it might have been a minor independent film or whatever that didn't get a whole lot of talk. But it was Harrison Ford. That's why I was like, why have I never heard of this? Harrison Ford and Brendan Fraser, and
I think I saw that.
And Carrie Russell, I think, was the mother.
I saw an ad for that. Something.
It's called Extraordinary Measures. And I had never heard of it before, but I saw this, it just came up on, I don't know, it was Netflix or Prime
Yeah,
or
no,
something.
I think I saw that.
But,
I was like, what is that?
I don't know, I don't watch that. And it's about,
that's Eve's phone.
Harrison Ford was like a scientist, and Brendan Fraser worked for like I don't know, Bristol Squibb. It's based on a true story kind of thing. But he was like he worked at a pharmacy, I guess, at Bristol, not pharmacy, but a pharmaceutical company, Bristol Myers, whatever it is. But he was, he worked there. And, but his kids, he had 3 kids, and one was healthy, but the other 2 had some disease called Pompe syndrome, Pompe syndrome. And I guess there was like no cure for it or whatever, and no real therapy for it, but it caused problems like with breathing. Like both of his kids had trach tubes or whatever, and wheelchairs, and but so one thing he was looking into was any kind of treatment or whatever, but kids with this disease aren't expected to live very long, and so like his oldest daughter. I think they had expected her to die earlier, but she had just turned 8 or something. But Harrison Ford played a guy that was like, he had all kinds of theories about ways to like medicines to address this issue. But he had all these theories, but he had no money for to develop it into whatever. So it was really interesting, and I thought, well, I've never heard of this before. Oh, wow. But it was a pretty good movie.
That reminds me of that movie Lorenzo's Oil. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I've heard that. I've never seen it, but
it's good.
But
if you can stand what's his face, it's good. You know what I mean? The father
and Susan Sarandon
and Susan Sarandon, and he was also in that movie, the Prince of Tides. That actor.
Oh, Nick Nolte?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
do you remember? So the Prince of Tides. She's that psychiatrist is married to a violinist.
Uh-huh.
And apparently Jamie, our friend, who may rest in peace, was considered for the movie for a minute, and he told me that, but he wound up not getting the part. And I said, that's okay. You don't want to be in a movie where Nick Nolte gets the girl. Like, that's not legit. He's a fine actor. But I mean, come on. Anyway, so no, Nick Nolte's in that movie, and he in Lorenzo's Oil, and he has a very annoying Italian accent. But it's a pretty good movie. But that also put me in mind of Alan Rickman in What the Lord Made. Have you seen that movie? Alan Rickman and Mose, is that his name?
I think I've
that black actor. What's his name? Is that it?
Something like that. Yeah.
He's like also a rapper, right?
Isn't he?
Really great actor. But and then Alan Rickman and is that his name? Def Mose?
I could
something like that. I can't remember. Anyway, he wants to be a doctor, but because of the year, he can't really go to medical school because he's black, but he's very smart and has done a lot of research and stuff, but he winds up kind of starting out in like just a lab assistant kind of position with Alan Rickman, who is like a huge surgeon, and they're working on heart valve replacements, something like that, back in the, I want to say it's the 60s.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I think I've seen that.
And so he becomes this like instrumental assistant to him, and it's the whole, you know, like the Alan Rickman doctor takes kind of a little bit of the credit and realizes that really it's, you know, he couldn't have done it without him, kind of thing. But that's a really good movie if you're an Alan Rickman fan, as I am. It's really good what the Lord made, but you have to, I think it's like one of those you have to buy, like it's not around. It's just pretty old. But
so I meant to talk about this last week and I didn't, but my phone.
Yes,
my phone.
You talked about that, didn't you?
No.
Yeah, she talked about
but not about what I went through with AT&T.
Oh.
Not to name names, but you know. So I had my phone before with AT&T, and I recently, last month toward the beginning of the month, I switched, right? And so I had waited until because I had like an automatic payment thing with AT&T, and so I waited until I got the little email that said, my payment had gone through, because I was on automatic payment, right? So after it went through, then I went ahead and switched carriers, because I was waiting for the payment to go through, because I didn't want to because I didn't know how much I was going to be end up paying with my new carrier, because I was buying a phone, blah, blah, blah. So when I was talking to the new people, they were saying, it should be automatic that, your old contract with AT&T will be canceled automatically when they port you over to the new service, whatever. But you might want to call them just to double check, blah blah blah. So I didn't really do anything about it at first, but then in the mail I got a paper bill from AT&T, and so I thought, okay, it's my final payment or whatever. So I was looking at it, and it was like for a lot of money, It was like, this doesn't sound right. And I was reading the thing. Well, first of all, it had a new account number, not my old account number, but a new one. And then also it said, it had a little opening paragraph. It said, "Thank you for choosing AT&T." And I'm like, I definitely did not choose AT&T. And so I was, looking at the billing details, and there was for like, 1 day or something, $2.50. And I thought, okay, that's the day I quit or whatever. But then it had like new charges as if I was starting up a new account. And I'm like, no, I'm not. So I called the customer service number, and I got the little, answering robot that says, what can I help you with? And so at first, it was like, can I have your account number or something? And so I think I originally say or speak your number, but so I said the new account number, and so I think the robot asked me for my 4-digit passcode, and I thought, wait, I don't know if that, if the number I have is for this new account or whatever. So I hung up, and I called back, and I had the old account number and the little passcode. So I put that in. I said that account number and the passcode, and then the little robot said, "We show that you're with one of our partner carriers, so you need to call them. Bye," and hung up on me. And I'm like, oh wait. And first of all, if I was with one of their partner companies, whatever, I don't know who that was, and I don't know the customer service number for that account. So I'm like, that's not right. So I called back again, and this time I put the new account number in there, and they asked for the 4-digit passcode or whatever. And so I gave them my old one, and it worked. And so I thought, well, that's weird. And then they, so they, said I owed this blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh. So I said, can I speak to a person? And so the robot thing said, eventually, after going around and around, said, okay, and they said, let me connect you. So they connected me, and then I got the message that said, all of our customer service agents are helping other people, but they said, if you want, we can give you a link to a chat. And I thought, okay, I'll do that. So they gave me the link, and I went to the chat, and this person answered, and so I said, this is my situation, and this person said, well, just a minute while I look that up. And then they didn't answer. So I said, hello, are you still there? And I didn't answer. And then it said, so-and-so got disconnected, so Ashley will help you now or something. And so this other person came on. And so I said, well, this is my problem, blah, blah, blah. And so she and I went, and she was saying, well, this is how much you owe. And I said, but that's not my account number. Mm-hmm. And so we went back and forth. And she's like, well, I can't access your old account number. And I'm like, it didn't disappear off the face of the earth. It's there still, somewhere in your system, whatever. And she's like, oh, I can't see it. And she goes, and finally, she, like she was saying, I'm just a customer service, person. I can't access that, And so finally, she said something about, maybe my supervisor can or something. I said, well, can I speak to your supervisor? So she connected me to a supervisor. And then, so I had to explain my whole situation to this new person. And so she was looking into it. And then I accidentally hit something wrong, and the chat disappeared. And so I dialed the customer service number again. And I think I tried to put in the old account number, and it disconnected me again. So I put in, I said the new account number. And so, finally, I was telling the little robot lady, I want to speak to a supervisor. And so finally they connected me to this lady, and she was very nice. And again, but I had to go round and round with her, this is my account number, blah, blah, blah. And so she finally, was able to look it up and resolved it for her. She said, okay, yeah, you don't have to pay that, whatever that amount was. I just had to pay for however many days, of the billing cycle that that I had on my own phone. So they're supposed to send me a bill, like on around the 10th or something like that. But yeah, I was just like, and I was on the phone with that ordeal for like an hour, maybe a long time. Because I spent all morning on the phone with them, going over and over and over and over. And I'm like, it was so much better when you could just talk to a person that answered the phone, and you could say, I have an unusual situation. Because when you speak to the little robot things, if your situation doesn't fall in all these little categories that they offer you, then it's,
What did Dad used to call that? Press 1, press 2.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
I had so many problems with CenturyLink's Prism Surface that almost daily I would have to call them on the way home from work. I used the voice thing to call them. And they'd say, what's your account number? I'm like, I have no idea. Every time I call you, you change it because you've changed something in my account. Stop changing my account number and I might know it. So they look it up by address. And, we'd have things like, wouldn't have the service for several days because something was going on with the connection, the guy who installed it, I don't know what. And I think the last guy that came in to work with it, he said, out on the thing where the hub is to go to the different houses, he said, I don't know who put that in, but it's a real mess. And I'm like, I am not surprised. But I almost always had to say, look, just go ahead and escalate this to your customer retention person, because I am just about to not be a customer.
Right.
If you don't send me to that person. Because they gave me, days here and days there and all that because of all the snafus that was going on. So when I ended that service and got DirecTV instead, because it was so bad, right? They tried telling me that I needed to pay for a disconnecting fee of something. I don't know. I call them. I'm like, what? Well, you were still under the contract of that. I said, no, I wasn't. I said, when I signed up for Prism, it was a 2-year contract, and it's been like 6. So I don't know anything. And she said, well, it renewed automatically. I said, no, it didn't. Because if it didn't tell me it renewed automatically, and it didn't,
Right.
then I don't have a contract. And you will not charge me this, and you will take it off my account.
Yeah.
And, and they're like, okay. But where that didn't work was with, I keep wanting to say Comcast, but not Comcast. Cox. Yeah. Because when I originally signed up with it, they told me that I was paying for the month ahead. And then when I quit them, they said they wanted to charge me another month. And I said, but you said that my payments were for the month ahead. And they said, no, it's for the month you've just finished. I'm like, but why, when I started the service, did I have to pay for the month ahead?
Yeah.
They're like, no, it was for the month previous, but I didn't have a month previous when I first signed up.
Right.
And so we went round and round. I'm like, I don't owe this money. I don't want to pay it.
Yeah.
He goes, well, we'll just send it to collections. I mean, it was not late or anything. We'll just send it to collections. It's like, no.
What I was
Did they finally resolve it?
No. The way it was resolved is when I had to sign back up with them again because of something on 48th Street. No, somewhere. When I had to sign back up with them, yeah, it was on 48th Street because they couldn't get my DirecTV to go in there. They were the only people that could get TV service in there. And so when I called them to talk to them, they said, well, you owe this money. I said, I don't owe that money. But they would not connect it again unless I paid it.
Oh, wow.
when I was moving into my second apartment in Little Rock.
Come here.
It was a newly renovated building, and the apartments before, they had a fire in the building, and so these new owners bought the building, and renovated it and kind of chopped it up and made it into new apartments and all this stuff. So it was like a brand new building almost when we were moving in, and I was one of the first tenants in there. There was like a handful of us that were the first tenants in there, and so I was very eager to move in, so when I went, I was asking about the cable connection because I was a big X-Files fan, and I was right in the middle of the season, and I think they think they were on hiatus or something for a few weeks at the time I was moving, so I was like very eager to get hooked up right away because the new episode was coming out, whatever. So
priorities.
Yes. So when I was moving in, I didn't know exactly what the cable situation was, and I happened to see. I remember I happened to see this couple that were moving in, and they had like a television. They were moving in there or something, and so I asked them. No, they just had whatever. They didn't have a television. They were moving in, and so I asked them. oh, like what apartment are you in, whatever. And I said, do you know anything about the cable situation? And I remember the lady told me, oh, this is just our weekend place. We're not having cable or whatever. And I'm like, this is your weekend? Who spends a weekend in Little Rock? But anyway, so they were no help. And so I called the apartment management, and they said, well, you have to call the cable company. And so I called the cable company, and I was asking about, and I said, this is the address, and they said, we're not showing anything. They said, we don't have that address in our system. They had the previous addresses. This building had like a double address number because it was basically divided in half, I guess. So it was 916 and 918 were the addresses for this place. And they said, all we have is 916 and 918 Commerce Street. And so they said, and I show 916, apartment number 1, destroyed by fire. Number 2, destroyed by fire. Because they were all the previous connections.
Right,
they were all
right,
listed
right.
as destroyed by fire.
Oh my God.
And so I called the apartment management back, and I said, they don't have it, And they said, no, somebody so-and-so is handling the sales, for this thing. And they said it should be 920 Commerce Street because they changed the address. So I called back and no, they didn't have it. And so finally I was able to get a hold of, I guess there was a person that was like a sales broker for whoever wanted cable connections in this building. And so finally I talked to that person, and they talked to the installer or whatever. And so what it was that they had not yet connected from the pole on the street to the building.
Oh.
So I had to wait a couple days for them to do that, for that to happen. And then I talked to the sales guy, whatever. And so they arranged that they were going to come on such and such a day to hook me up. So I was waiting, and it was getting later and later and later in the day. And finally, I think they called me and they said, they were he was on another call that had taken a long time, and he said, I could come another day, or I could come tonight, but it'll be pretty late. And I said, I don't care, come tonight. And so I think he came to the apartment like at 9 or something, 9 in the evening. And so he came and made sure my connections in them. There was a connection in the living room and a connection in the bedroom, which I wasn't using. And so then the cable came into the basement. And so in the basement, if you looked at there were like little pipe things that went to each apartment, and they were, like apartment 1 and apartment 2, whatever, that were there. But then they if you follow the cables to where they went to the street, it was like a big pile of spaghetti, because at that point they were not labeled to which ones went to which apartment. So he had to go and
you made him do this late at night. You're horrible.
It was about the X-Files. Let's get our
priorities. So I was upstairs, and he had a little device plugged into the cable, and then he had another device down there, and so he was like stripping all the cables. He'd strip a cable and plug it into the device, and strip a cable and plug it into the device, because he was trying to get a live little feedback, whatever. Mm-hmm. And so he was doing that, and I was upstairs saying, when I would get a little feedback thing from there or whatever. But anyway, so it just he had to strip through half of those cables to fiend mine that went to my apartment. So he was able to hook it up finally, and and all of that, and so yeah, it was it was like an ordeal. But the other thing about that apartment too was that they have a little security box thing, so that if somebody came to visit you, they would press your phone number or something into this little security box, and it would buzz upstairs, and you could buzz them in right through the door. And so I had students that did that regularly. And so so that was my normal procedure. And then also, because this is the same number I had since I moved to Little Rock, that, you know, everybody, all the, like, the churches and various symphony organizations and all that had my phone number. So I would get called for gigs, you know, can you play, you know, this date of this gig? And so, you know, it was very important to keep my phone number accessible to everybody, right? That everybody knew at that number. But then, like, I don't know, like, toward the end, the last few years I lived there, I was upgrading my phone because of, like, I don't know, it was my computer or something that I had to get, like, an upgraded phone connection or whatever. So this guy came to upgrade my phones, and so he was there working, blah blah blah, you know, and then he said something about, you know, well, your new phone number is going to be blah blah blah, and I'm like, I didn't ask to change my phone number, you know, I don't want to change my phone number. And so so we had to go kind of, you know, round and round about, you know, so he was like, okay. But the problem was that he had to call the same, like, customer service number that I would have had to call. He didn't have like a direct number for, you know, for a worker. He had to call customer service, and then you know, wait on hold and wait to talk, you know. And so finally he was like,
because you want a new phone number.
Well, and it was something like a VoIP, you know, for voice over internet phone or something like that, you know. And I was like, I didn't want to do that because A, it was connected, my current number was connected to the security box, and B, my number was all over the state with you know, all these different organizations, and, you know, and if I, you know, changed my number, it would have, you know.
So basically you're the serviceman's nightmare.
Yeah. So he finally, you know, was able to talk to somebody, but it was like going to be like 4 days or something before they got my number changed back. And I'm like, so why is it that they could change my number instantly when the guy was there, but then it would take them 4 days to change it back? I'm like, you know, but fortunately.
Well,
you know.
We've been talking a long time.
Yes.
And I've got things to do today.
Yes.
So we will. Oh, and I'm out of Coke.
I was shocked. You're never out.
I got to change the laundry in my.
Oh yeah, I heard the
Yeah.
washer going.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us again. We hope your February is off to a running start, and that where you are is not too cold. We're a little chilly, which the way we like it, but not too cold. So we hope you have a great week, and we'll see you back next week. Bye.
Bye.